Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Aether Hub. I'm Simon, bringing you another Magic the Gathering video. With the release of Commander Legends, we're getting tons of new cards for characters that date back far into the earliest days of MTG stories, who finally are debuting on cards of their own. This is why I love me some Commander, as these new sets bring us some of the more obscure characters and allows us to tell their stories through a Commander deck. Today we'll be examining the story behind our latest Commander-specific Planeswalker, Tevesh Szat, Doom of Fools, and how he became one of the most influential villains in all of Magic the Gathering. Remember, if you enjoy the content, to hit that notification bell so you're notified of our new videos releases. You can also like, comment, and share with friends to really help the channel grow. And with that, let's learn more about Tevesh Szat, the Doom of your playgroup. Tevesh Szat, Doom of Fools is a legendary planeswalker for 4 generic and a single black mana. Add 2 loyalty counters, create 2 0/1 Black Thrall creature tokens. Add 1 loyalty counter, you may sacrifice another creature or planeswalker. If you do, draw 2 cards. Then, draw another card if the sacrifice permanent was a commander. And his ultimate at -10 loyalty, gain control of all commanders, put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control. Of course, as this is a commander-focused set, Tevesh Szat, Doom of Fools can be your commander, and it also has partner. And from a story standpoint, we'll see who could be the best partner fit later in the video. So let's get into this character's story and look at how his abilities could tie into significant aspects of his lore. Tevesh Szat was born a human named Tev Loneglade on the plane of Dominaria. Of meek and neutral disposition, Tev was protected by his sister, Timolen, who was a skilled and accomplished warrior. She was obviously the more outgoing and successful of the siblings, but all that would change when Tev's latent planeswalker spark ignited, unlocking untold potential magical powers. Back in these days, prior to the mending, planeswalkers were essentially gods, able to tap into endless fonts of mana and perform universe-changing feats. Tev, however, didn't fall into some spiral lust for power, rather using his magic to enchant his sister with endless youth, while letting himself grow older, if in appearance if not mortality. However, the burdens of a planeswalker, as many would come to learn, can be many, and Tev found himself unleashing accidentally devastating spells on various continents he and his sister visited. This made Tev quite paranoid of his own powers, ending in his self-imposed seclusion. Tev grew older and colder with each passing year, watching as the countries, tribes, and races of Dominaria waged endless war with one another. Even with his immense power, Tev was unable or unwilling to change the attitudes of mortal races. For every good act he could perform, over time the people would forget and plunge back into chaos. This realization embittered the powerful planeswalker, making him callous and uncaring to the world around him, finding only room in his heart for his sister. However, as Tev grew away from the world, his sister was growing within it. She was off getting married to lords of kingdoms, fighting the forces of chaos in a war against orcs and goblins. Despite her skills with a sword and the enchantments placed on her by Tev, she couldn't do enough to save her people or even her own relationships. The forces of chaos were just too strong. She needed Tev to intervene. Her brother had to act. Still, he refused, using neutrality to mask his utter resentment towards the mortal races and fear of his unbelievable power that ultimately didn't really matter. One day, Tev's life would change forever as he and his sister were attacked by a group of cultists who looked to deal a killing blow to his beloved Timolen. In various battles throughout this chapter in Dominaria's history, Tev found his discontent with mortals growing, and with that, his physical form began to shift to match his more confrontational demeanor. His body became dark, less human, resembling more of a demonic or draconic shape. He became Tevesh Szat at this time, one who truly cared not for the lives of others, and this was solidified with the death of the one person he cared about, his sister, who was murdered by a group known as the Ebon Hand. Sensing his sister's death, Tev, now going by Tevesh Szat, snapped. His demonic form whipped through the camps of this order, slaughtering all in his path. But his fury wasn't sated. He had a growing hatred for all mortal kingdoms and the noise that they created throughout Dominaria and life itself. He promised there and then to bring about the silence, meaning the end of all life on Dominaria, so that finally he could truly be alone. Though typically a solo actor in his rampages, which saw this planeswalker stamp out countless villages and even entire kingdoms over several years, Dominaria was again changing as a new ice age set in. Seeing some aligning goals, Tevesh Szat joined fellow villainous planeswalker Leshrac and the necromancer Limdol as they looked to preserve the quiet ice that set on Dominaria. Ultimately, their plans would fall apart thanks to heroes like Freyalise, who preserved Dominaria and broke the Ice Age. Again, Tevesh Szat retreated from his world, this time planeswalking away entirely, retreating to a world of perpetual darkness, enjoying the silence there while also longing to bring this silence to Dominaria. Szat's return to Dominaria would come from an unexpected source, the planeswalker Urza, who was looking for allies in his fight against the Phyrexians who looked to invade the plane. The Phyrexians were a dark force that looked to conquer this world and perfect it through its cold mechanical ideals, something Tevesh Szat, who had run-ins with the powerful Phyrexians in the past, could really get down with. So with betrayal in his heart, Tevesh Szat joined Urza as one of the 9 Titans, powerful planeswalkers who would fuel literal mech suits in a battle on the homeworld of Phyrexia itself. Yes, old school magic lore is indeed a trip. So, with the 9 Titans ready to attack Phyrexia, Szat set his own plans in motion. He whispered and manipulated a defender of Dominaria named Daragaz, a reincarnated primeval dragon, convincing him that resurrecting and awakening his fellow primeval dragons would be the best course in defending Dominaria from the Phyrexians. And why not? As primeval dragons, they were essentially gods, second only to the original Elder Dragons who came before them. They would be powerful allies in this fight. However, the primeval dragons' power made them arrogant, believing themselves truly to be gods. The reunited group began attacking friend and foe alike, causing untold chaos and devastation on Dominaria. With that done, Tevesh Szat went with Urza and the other Titans in their mech suits to Phyrexia to blow up the artificial plane. Once there, and escape nearly impossible for the group, Szat began killing his own companions rather than fight the Phyrexians. Because, after all, the Phyrexians aligned more with his belief that Dominaria should be a smoldering hunk of quiet mass floating throughout the multiverse. Yeah, inviting a guy like this probably wasn't the smartest thing Urza could do. In an effort to make himself not look like the worst tactician in history, Urza revealed that he in fact anticipated this betrayal all along, and that Tevesh Szat was only really invited for his immense natural life force, which Urza extracted, placed into soul bombs, and used in the detonation of Phyrexia. It was an assault so brutal and painful to the very soul of Tevesh Szat that even Baron, Urza's oldest friend, considered it undeserving even to the most irredeemable villain. Urza of course saw it differently, and this ultimately ended with Tevesh Szat's death. His campaign to end Dominaria in its total silence finally brought to a screaming end. Now that we know the entire story of this commander, let's try to pair his abilities found on card to that story, starting with his +2 ability, which creates 2 0/1 Blackthal creature tokens. So at first glance, this doesn't really seem to fit much of anywhere, but remember when we discussed the cult who attacked and eventually killed his sister? Well, that group, the Order of the Ebon Hand, which Tevesh Szat just completely obliterated, was really into creating thralls. This ability is a reminder of the group who triggered Tev's true transformation, and the forces he would unleash on Dominaria. Next, his +1, sacrificing another creature or planeswalker to draw 2 cards, and getting an extra card if that sacrificed permanent was a commander. This is the whole reason Tevesh Szat Doom of Fools has partner, and it harpens back to his joining of the 9 Titans of Urza, him partnering with 9 other powerful planeswalkers in the fight against Phyrexia, only to end up betraying and killing them. So this works perfectly in sacrificing other planeswalkers you control, and even more so with another partnered with Tevesh Szat himself. And finally, his ultimate, which is just insane, and as a relatively new commander player, I can't even begin to tell you what this is gonna look like. You more experienced players out there, please let me know in the comments how this would even work. You just steal everyone's commanders and they become your creatures? Can you make one of them your commander that's partnered with Tevesh Szat Doom of Fools? It sounds sweet, but of course at 10 loyalty counters, it's a pretty hefty ultimate. Anyway, I can only really see this again pairing with the 9 Titans along with the +1 ability, having all these strong legendary creatures on Tevesh's side, only to wind up sacrificing them. If I had to guess at a perfect partner to pair with Tevesh Szat, Doom of Fools, at least from a story standpoint, if not practical in a commander setting, I would say the best character would probably be Leshrac. Now, I know he doesn't really have a commander card yet printed with partner to group up with this character, but I feel like that's the direction they could go in to make this a more flavorful combination. Outside of that, his next biggest partner would probably be Urza. I mean, Urza just let this villain join the ranks of the 9 Titans, apparently knowing full well that he was going to just start killing them randomly once they were on Phyrexia. So Urza was willing to sacrifice allies, all to have Tevesh Szat join him in the 9 Titans. I get it, he can kind of rationalize it because he needed the immense soul energy for the bombs, blah blah blah. But this really speaks to who Urza is as a character, and how he's willing to do anything, including sacrificing friends to achieve his goals. So in that, Urza would be a great partner with Tevesh Szat, as strange as it may seem. Now that's from a story standpoint that I think they would pair great together, but unfortunately, Urza Lord High Artificer doesn't have partner, so mechanically it just doesn't work. But still, I feel like if they came out with a new Urza or Leshrac card and gave it partner, that it would work great, flavorfully, with Tevesh Szat, Doom of Fools. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know your ideas and includes for a commander deck around Tevesh Szat, Doom of Fools. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you show your support by leaving it a like, subscribing, and taking that notification bell so you never miss out on a new video's release. You can also support us over on Patreon, get signed cards, as well as early access to videos. Check that all out with the link in the description box. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time guys, see ya!